So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Planets Through Ascendants series. And today we're going to be starting from our Pisces Ascendant for Mars. Okay? As in Mars being in the sign of Pisces for Pisces Ascendant people, where Mars will rule the ninth house and the second house. Okay? Because ninth house becomes the house of your lineage, house of your father, your gurus, the higher knowledge that you learn. Second house of family, assets, wealth, your speech, what you value, your food habits. That's all Mars. Okay. And as always, if you do not know what sign nakshatra Mars is in, all your surroundings of Mars and all your astrological details, you can go to karasastrology.com, where you'll find my books, reports, consultations, and link to my academy, Maka Vedic Astrology Academy, where I'm currently uploading April horoscopes for all the ascendants. I think tonight I'm going to do Sagittarius. So, Mars in Pisces. This is a very interesting sign of Pisces. Because on one hand, especially for a female, it'll represent their husband, younger brother. For a male, it'll represent their younger brother. It'll represent who they are as an individual, because the planet in the ascendant becomes the life force, the anchor of your of your life. Whatever that you do, Mars will have a say on this. Now, on one hand, Mars in the ascendant will become extremely strong. One will be very forceful, courageous, take risks, take chances. Okay. And especially a person will be strongly influenced by their younger brother. Best friend. Not friend, best friend. Why best friend? Because, for example, when you talk about, or when you're having a conversation with a friend who's like your lifelong friend, high school friend, and now you're like 25, 35. In conversations, you will use terms like, oh man, we're like brothers, we're going to do this, this, and this. As soon as you say, oh, we're like brothers, we're like sisters, that now becomes like a sibling. That's the best friend. Friend is a friend, which is Mercury, but Mars is a best friend. Okay? And you will see with Mars in the ascendant, you will somehow always be going round in circles related to the issues with your best friend. They had an issue with their friend. It'll all, or your best friend had an issue within their family, right? That issue will always be the dominating factor in your conversation when you're sitting at night outside in the backyard, in the front yard, having a drink, having a tea, having a coffee, and just talking. You'll even talk about how they impacted you because of this and this. And this will be the repeated conversations. They go around in circles. On the other hand, we also see at one point in your life comes a particular junction where then that particular relationship with that Martian individual becomes lost. Like there's no more worry or care about what's happening with the best friend, what's happening with the younger brother, what's happening with the spouse. Like as a Pisces ascendant, especially let's say in a female's chart, a husband will greatly influence you in your life. Brother may influence you, but at one point there comes a junction, okay, where no longer that conversation, that feelings, that attachment matters. It actually becomes from a source of attachment to detachment. Okay, so for Pisces ascendant, like especially if you see a Pisces ascendant with Ketu and Saturn in the 5th or 9th house or in the ascendant, a person actually wants to become aesthetic. Person wants to give up everything and just wanting to live the most simplest life of a priest. And the thing is with the Pisces ascendant, with Mars in the ascendant, and for a Pisces ascendant themselves, it becomes a very complicated, tedious task to define these things in their life. Because at the same, like somebody could be married, like let's say a woman could be married to their spouse for 40 years. But in that 40 years, they will never feel like that connection was there. Okay. And it happens. You got to understand, this is why it's real life. Real life is much different than the fantasy land of movies and sitcoms and stories that you hear. In real life, you, like for a female's chart, you're going to want for the husband to impact your life, change you as a person. That's exactly what they look for. And especially in a male's chart, you're going to look for an impact from the father. You look from a masculine figure, that impact. But then that impact is dissolved. That impact is dissolved. Now, how is it that impact can actually balance itself out? Where you're not focusing on them to give you that impact. And that comes from the art of detachment and the art of understanding who you are. What do I mean by this? The Pisces Mars ascendant person, sure, they can be a great runner, great athlete, great kickboxer, especially if Mercury is in trine from Mars. Mercury is connected with Mars. Okay? But they will always feel like these things don't matter now. And when does this happen? This happens when you get closer to between 44 and 49th year. 44 and 49th year will be the most impactful with these things, where a 30-year long friendship will suddenly dissolve. Where that connection dissolves. Even with the family, the connection dissolves. Like it loses its meaning. What do I mean by meaning? Like for some people, when you sit in a conversation, whether it's an acquaintance, a stranger, coworker, and you're listening to the conversation, how impactful their family has been, and family is this and that. For this, Mars in the ascendant person will be like, they will try to look for these small spots. Like, yeah, I guess my family did this also to me. And they'll think within their head, they won't bring it out. Unless, of course, the conversation comes to this person. Okay? The things dissolve with Pisces. And when Mars is in the ascendant, the two most dominating factor that is very important is the family, is the lineage, the father, and the individual wants to, at one point, especially with the ages that I mentioned and beyond that age, literally 44th year beyond that age, it wants to dissolve. Like, fine. You know why? Because a Mars represents Dhiyakarka, right, of your body. And it's in the ascendant of the opening doors of your soul to come in. While the Pisces sign is sitting there, saying whatever you do, whatever you are that you're developing into, because Mars in Pisces person can be extremely rageful. There could be this rage of ending something, beginning something. Okay, that is there. But ultimately, its foundation is like whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you are wanting to attach yourself to, it's going to be dissolved. And the only way to balance out with this Mars, okay, if it's in Pisces, and of course different planets will definitely add on a very strong role. Like if Mars, Ketu are in the ascendant, you will see this person will go towards things like yoga. Mars, Rahu will occupy themselves or try to occupy themselves within the gym, or occupying themselves with hallucinogens, wanting to detach. Like when at one point, this situation will come, or not even the situation, circumstances and ambience will come that will say, let go. Why? Because Mars in the ascendant, the person will always be focused on this one fact. After a certain age, you gotta understand, it has to be after a certain age, where they'll be like, what is the point? They'll be like, I can die tomorrow. What is the point of this attachment and getting into this nuisance of the family business or lineage property or this or that? I don't need it. Like you will see, even if the person got like some ancestral property, by the time within their mid 40s to 48, when Ketu matures, the person is like, I don't care. Take it. I don't need it. I don't want it. But yes, that ferociousness is there. Okay? That anger, that ferociousness is there with the Mars. That impulsiveness to make decisions where things actually detach are there. And you got to understand, this is why it's a layer. We as human beings, and when we put astrology in the middle, or anything, it is simply a layer that unravels through age, unravels through time. Like even if let's say Mars is in the ascendant, Mercury, Rahu are with Mars, or they're trine from Mars. Okay, a person is completely immersed in one thing, computer engineering, AI, softwares. That's and they're always trying to, you will see, they will try to make repeated mistakes from that in trying to get their results. Okay? Because throughout life they will be immersed in that one focus that they have, and every other focus now detaches. And why did it detaches? Because you will see with Mars and Pisces, especially in the concept of marriage, a person will be criticized by the spouse and they will criticize the spouse. Because marriage is something that makes you or breaks you. Okay? And this person is here to find that detachment by being criticized by everybody else that comes in front of them. Or they purposefully will criticize and nitpick and error pick everything that the foreign person does, because they know whoever is coming in front of me is going to dissolve. They're not here permanently. They're here in a very temporary basis. And so this is one placement with Mars and Pisces more than any other planet, where you will see these bipolar layers sprouting out at the same time. Okay? Like especially if let's say Mars is in Pisces, one should not be attached to that ancestral land and that ancestral assets and property that you're going to get. Why? Because either they will dissolve or you will dissolve it yourself. You'll dissolve it yourself. You will also see, especially younger brother, spouse, they're always lost in their own astral plane. They have all these grand schemes that they're trying to accomplish, trying to finish. But it's kind of like a smoke. Where it doesn't become a smoke is when Mars finds Saturn second from itself, or Mars finds Saturn third from itself. In those cases, this person, regardless of their overly exaggerated ambition, will be able to achieve 1/4 of what they're trying to do. Now, so this is why I said, like, other planets will add on a different flavor. Like if Saturn is opposite to Mars as a Pisces, so Saturn is in Virgo. This person is going to try to achieve things because they have been criticized about how they cannot achieve things. That will be the motivating factor. The one thing that will calm this, like, not even calm your situations down. They're going to do what they're going to do. But for you as an individual, you will see whenever this person walks, runs, does marathon running, does yoga, especially yoga that is focused on the strengthening of the feet, they find their balance and their aim to achieve things in life. Okay? Like this could be a chart of, let's say, a fighter who is a vagabond, rejected by everyone, but they found this one thing that kept them going. Like, if it wasn't for martial arts and all that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be alive. So certain things that they do with the physical body actually give this person an aim. So if let's say you have Mars in the ascendant, you're depressed, you feel like nothing is happening. The moment you begin to use your physical body, the moment you start training your physical body, that becomes a very powerful aim for you to feel like, no, I belong here. I belong here, I'm needed here, I'm wanted here. And especially by you doing this thing, especially let's say for females, when they begin to use, or not even use, when they begin to work on their physical body, you will see how the relationship with the husband balances out. And especially, like I said, if Ketu is in somehow relationship with Mars, 311 relationship, 5-9, or conjunct with Mars, yoga becomes your remedy. Yoga becomes your elixir. Yoga becomes, your amrit in life. By not doing that, life becomes a kryptonite. You're Superman and life becomes a kryptonite. And the thing is, Pisces in the ascendant, with Mars there, a person needs to become a wanderer. That is who you need to be in life. You become a vagabond. You go from one thing to another, especially let's say Mercury is in the 9th house. Moon is in the ascendant with Mars. A person will love focusing on understanding all the inner workings of every single religion, every single cultural and spiritual focus except their own. That becomes their motivation. This is why I'm saying I'm giving these different examples of how a planetary alignment with Mars will change these things. Okay, but the thing about this Mars is the person, to be honest with you, looks for moksha. The body looks for moksha, the consciousness looks for moksha, because the ascendant is the consciousness. Ascendant is the consciousness, moon is the mind, sun is the soul, Jupiter is the jiva that keeps you alive. Ascendant is the consciousness. The consciousness is always thinking, how do I escape this? What do I do to escape this? And these other planets add on 4 or 5 different layers for this Mars. This is why this is quite complicated to explain Mars here for everybody. Every other ascendant has been very simple. It's like that. This is like an onion layer. It's like cake. Okay. Cakes have layers, onion have layers. Like you hear the dialogue in the movie Shrek when the donkey and Shrek are walking through the field to go to King Farquaad's, uh, assembly. That one dialogue is very important for this particular scenario. If you haven't watched Shrek 1, watch it. Especially when they're talking about how ogres have layers. And then they're like, onions have layers. And the donkey says, no, cakes have layers too. It is everything that Mars and Pisces is trying to give. Okay. So, I know it doesn't give this is the position. It's like you're trying to study Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Gas giants with no solid ground. Everything is studied in the layers of gases that are there. And only that's how you will understand who you are. Okay. So, hopefully this has given some explanation for Mars and Pisces in the ascendant. Okay. And next we will move on to Mars in the second house in Aries and all of that. But this is that one position. And you don't understand. You see, you don't get this by any books. You will not get this by any article. It's something when you study the charts, when you see what the person wants, what the person needs. That's when you understand this. That's what I'm giving you. Okay. So anyway, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.